So my name is Herman Strauss. Thanks for this opportunity to talk to you today. I'm the Executive Director for the SAWatermark, and I'd like to tell you a little bit more about the SAWatermark and why you should be very excited about it. So one of the things we noted is more and more people have been asking, seeing the watermark, noticing. I mean, you must have seen the logo, seen this floating around. It's not going away. A lot of people say, well, they know it's been introduced, but where is it? What is it? More and more people come back to us and say, well, the plumbers are asking for it. People are asking what it is. And we realize, you know what, maybe it's time to just refresh your memories. Tell you exactly where it is, what it comes from, and what the SAWatermark really means. But we have to start at the beginning. Within the plumbing environment, within our country, there's a few important things we need to acknowledge. I mean, water security is critical in our country, and it ain't getting any better. Everybody along the line needs to do their bit to ensure that there are water security. And then there's obviously quite a chain of different things that needs to all work together to ensure that there's water for our people. At the same time, I mean, water is gonna, or the plumbing system is gonna start and a finish. We definitely rely on water supply, water sources, but the sewage need to go somewhere. I mean, this can pose such critical health risks if the sewage aren't managed correctly and if it doesn't go where it is supposed to go in a controlled environment. So plumbing is critical. Plumbing is there to ensure that we can live in hygiene conditions. It's good for all of us. But there are many things along the way that we need to consider and that we need to bear in mind. One of those things is we need to be reminded that plumbing is exceptionally dangerous. You've seen the previous image, and there's a lot of pathogens, a lot of disease that can spread through bad sewage, through sewage leaks in different areas. Explosions. There's more and more images and incidents of geyser explosions and other plumbing failures that cause substantial damage that we get aware of lately. And I mean, the images on the screen aren't fictional. That is actual geyser explosions. I can't show you the video clips now. That just takes some extra time. But if you look on the internet, that's quite available at the moment as well. Some horrific scenes of explosions. So yes, given that is some of the more worst case scenarios that we've shown, but we have to understand and we have to remember that plumbing is a system of components that all work together. It's a complete system. If you break any link in the chain, the whole system is at risk. And that whole system leads to the hygiene of us, of the consumers, of everybody along the line. Never mind just the benefit and the niceties that it brings along the way as well. So a quick reminder, where does the SAWatermark come from? And the SAWatermark comes from the plumbing industry for the plumbing industry. This, well, there's no no other way to say this really, that it is for us, by us. It is not a private initiative of somebody that thought this is a nice idea and just another way to make money or another way to keep people intact. This is something that the plumbing industry acknowledged. To me, this is one of the nicest stories to tell in a country like ours, where we struggle with lots of things, where the industry got together, they identified some challenges, and they took ownership of the problems and put something in place to address that, to make life better for themselves and for their consumers. So I've given you a lot of background. what's it really? What is the SA watermark? So in very, very simple terms, the SA watermark is a register of plumbing components that comply with SANS standards. That's what it is. It's a register. It's a register that is available, publicly available. It's a register that confirms the products on this register comply to the legal requirements that that product needs to comply with. The purpose, obviously, as we've said, it is to make sure that every link in this chain is what it is supposed to be. There's reasons why we have standards. There's reasons why the same standards are there, and there's reasons why there are legal requirements that the products must comply with that. And the watermark provides you a simple reference to what is legal to use. Another very important thing to note and to understand is while the SA watermark were established by a fairly large group of companies and organizations within the plumbing industry, no single one organization has got the power to tell the watermark what to do. The industry as a grouping set up the SA watermark, but it was set up in such a way that it is completely independent. There's a non-profit company registered. The company's name is SA Independent Auditing Services. Not that important. That's just a reference to the legal entity that is legally registered as a non-profit organization. So nobody can make money out of this. It is set up so that it is sustainable, but nobody gets rich out of this scheme. The other advantage of this is, as I've mentioned, it's independent. It's completely independent. Nobody's got a veto power to direct in any specific direction. In other words, it makes all decisions in the best interest of the plumbing community, of what is right for the consumers. It's got a I think the board of the executive committee is about 12 members comprised of various representatives from the industry as well. So you can really rest assured there's no manipulation or direction. And the reason why I elaborate on that is obviously we've heard lots of comments about the SA watermark, mostly good, but some comments not quite accurate as well. And that was one of the comments that we've heard, that the SA watermark is just another way to manipulate the industry into a direction, or to force the will of some groupings onto the rest. That is completely the opposite. We have to understand that everything is driven actually from the legislation. It's driven from the national standards. So what does the law really say? And I'll give this to you in very simple terms. If you want the actual references, I'd be happy to share that. But in South Africa, it is a legal requirement that plumbing components must comply with the SANS standards. As simple as that. The law says the component shall comply. The law, the way our legislation works, is that you have to have evidence of to show that the product complies. You have to have evidence that show how the product comply. But the law does not really say what that evidence should be. What the law really says, or what the law actually just say, is it's the responsibility of the supplier, the retailer, the plumber, everybody in the supply chain. They are all equally liable. If something goes wrong, they're all liable. And this is a discussion we can carry on for quite some time to try and explain that. But the fact, and I think the important fact that we can't get away from, is it's a legal requirement for a good reason. And just to emphasize this as well, it's not just one standard that says so. It's there are several sets of legislation that made it legal requirements. Water Services Act, Pressure Equipment Regulations, the Building Regulations, and the Consumer Protection Act, all different aspects, some quite a bit of overlapping in the requirements, but it is not something we can ignore. And I mean, if there's so many legislation that makes it legal compliance, there must be a reason, there must be something behind that, and it must be important to acknowledge that and to try and follow that. A quick comment that also causes confusion quite a lot along the line is SABS and SANS. We hear a lot of people still talking about SABS standards. So just to pronounce it correct, South African Bureau of Standards, SABS. Yes, prior to the 2000s, SABS were one organization. It were SABS standards, but round about the year 2000, there was a split. SABS is an organization. SANS stands for South African National Standards. So SANS or SANS is the standard. That is the set of rules that the product need to comply with, and that belongs to the public. That is not a well, although SABS holds the copyright to that, there's a big divide. So you can refer to compliance to SANS standards. You can't refer to compliance to SABS standards. It's also worth noting SABS established a separate company called SABS Commercial, and it is the SABS Commercial organization that offer testing and certification services. Another aspect that we have to bear in mind, and especially important within our legislative system, is South Africa, us as a country, has signed various international agreements. We are part of the World Trade Organization. We signed the ILAC, International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation Agreement. We're part of the International Accreditation Forum. There are various international agreements that the country agreed to. What does that mean? You can forget the names and everything, but what it means is South Africa agreed internationally that we as an international community will accept each other's test results, will accept each other's certifications. We will not cause a product to be retested unnecessary. We will cause products to be, or product standards to be written in such a way that it will let's say prevent imports from happening. It's designed in such a way to open the doors, to open international trade, to make it easier to accept and to acknowledge and use that. It's worth noting SANAS, South African National Accreditation Service System, is the local representative to these organizations, IAF and ILAC. SANAS it's voluntary. Local testing and certification bodies can choose to be accredited by SANAS. It's most definitely recommended. We promote that. It's the best way to go. I simply cannot say that it's a legal requirement because it's not. It remains voluntary, but we most definitely encourage that. It's important to note at this point, remember, we keep talking about, or we say, but we want to open the doors. Not we want to, the country already agreed. We will accept products from other countries. We will accept international test results and so on. What can never be compromised is the law says it must comply to the SANS standard, the South African National Standard. Do not be misled by anybody presenting you ISO test report or EN, ANSI, whichever one of those. It is simply not what our law requires. There are processes in place to make sure that the SANS standards are adequate for our country and it does not introduce barriers to trade. That all happens at the SABS and there's processes for that. What we need to acknowledge is we cannot ourselves decide and say, well, this tap was tested to an EN standard, it must be good in South Africa. No, it's not the case. We respect the SANS standards exactly the way that the law respects them, that the law requires that. So practically, what does this mean? This means for the consumer, the plumber, the supplier, the law says he has to have evidence the products comply, and there are so many ways to verify that. Today, there are so many companies out there that offer testing services and certification services. How do we know what to look for? How do we know how to differentiate between the different organizations? Are they all sound? Can we trust them? Can we not? It's a big challenge. And this is where the SAWatermark comes into play. So How the process basically works is the manufacturer or the product supplier, he chooses who he wants to test his products with. He chooses his testing or certification partner, manufactures the process within the acceptable rules. He chooses a partner to test wherever he wants to. He brings that information to the SAWatermark. At the SAWatermark, we verify that information. And that is a very important part that we play. We can verify whether the report certification is what it's supposed to be. We can verify that it complies with a set of rules. And once we verified that, then that product can be put on the SAWatermark register. So also bear in mind that companies that list their products on the SAWatermark sign a legal agreement that hold them accountable. So this is voluntary. Nobody has to do that. However, there's a lot of companies that chose to list their products on the SAWatermark, and if you choose to list your products there, it becomes available to everybody. Everybody knows that if the product is on the register, you know that it is it's a compliant product, it's safe to use, and there's checks and balances behind that. I keep referring to testing and certification. I don't know how many of you really understand the difference between testing and certification, what the significance is. But a very, very simplified explanation of that. Testing is a once-off process. That's where somebody sit in a lab and verify the product. Sit with a product in the one hand, the standard in the other one, and go through the standard line by line and verify whether the product complies with every requirement in the standard. We refer to this as a design verification. We verify the design. It's a once-off process, and it does not imply that the production is correct. Certification verifies production. Certification verifies that every item that comes off that production line still complies to the design that were tested. So that's the basic difference between testing and certification. Testing is once off, certification is ongoing. Certification make use of testing as well. So typical certification processes have a product tested and then do regular factory audits and then do some regular spot testing as well. So within the SAWatermark, this is acknowledged by our star rating system. So what we've said is, for a product to be listed, at least the design must be verified. So to get a 1-star rating on the SAWatermark, there must be at least a test report. So there's rules, there's tech checks and balances for test reports. We can discuss that at a different stage. If you want the info, I'll share that with you. But bottom line, with only a test report, which is typically equivalent to a JASB comply permit, you can get a 1-star rating on the SAWatermark. On the other end of the scale, for a 4-star rating, that means a factory will have continuous product verification, continuous checks. Plus, there's what we call blind testing, where the SAWatermark will go out, take a sample either from a warehouse or the marketplace or anywhere else, immediately take full ownership of that product, send it to a laboratory for testing to verify whether the product still complies. All of that information is then being made public. So we've been talking about, and we told you about the app, the SAWatermark app that will be launched soon. And yes, we admit it didn't come as soon as we hoped. We are at the last bits of it, busy verifying the final data to go into the app. The whole idea of the app is so that you can walk around and on the shop floor, have a look at the products, verify that whether it's on the list or not. Remember, if it is on the SAWatermark, you can rest assured the product complies. If it's not, doesn't mean the product does not comply, doesn't mean it doesn't have to be there. It just means you got to go through all the processes to verify that the product complies yourself now. The one thing the app, we envisage that you will be able to scan the barcode of the product. We found that there's a bit of a challenge because especially with plumbing products, common barcodes aren't that common. So we're working on that, but you will see the list either on our website and or the app very, very soon. I can just show you some of the brand names that is on the SA Watermark at the moment. Remember, all the brand names, it doesn't mean all the products comply, and they can select some of their products to be on the SA Watermark register and not. But these brand names all appear on the SA Watermark at present, and we are busy loading more. This is exciting. There's a few applications in process, so this list of brand names and the list of products will grow. We are over 700 products on the SA Watermark register at the moment. So, in conclusion, and I think the most important thing that we need to take away from this session this morning is I think we all understand how important plumbing is to our country, how important responsible plumbing is to our country. We all understand the legal requirements for plumbing components to comply with. What you have to take away from here is you can rest assured that if you see something on the watermark, you know that checks and balances are in place, that there's evidence on file to confirm that that product complies with the requirements of the national standard, and that you can use that product in confidence, or confidently use that product. Use that word incorrectly, sorry about that, but it means you can have confidence that you can use this product